studying the Srimad Bhagavatam, second canto, and the first chapter, and I guess it's text 10? 10. Yeah. Okay, so. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Sarasatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudiriye. Before we recite the Srimad Bhagavatam, we should first offer our respectful obeisances to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Narayan, to Narayan Rishi, the supremmost human being, Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and to Srila Prabhupada, our spiritual master, the founder Acharya. So, text 10, and this is Sukadev Goswami speaking to Maharaj Brigid. Tad aham te vidashami Taraham te vidashami Maha Paurushiko Bhavan Mahan Paurushiko Bhavan Yasha Shraddhahatam Asu Yasya Shraddhahatam Asu Yasya Shraddhahatam Asu Shan Mukunde Mati Sati Shan Mukunde Mati Sati Tadaham te vidashyami Mahaparushiko Bhavan Yasya Sadhata Asu Syan Mukunde Mati Shati Tadaham te vividasya I'm saying this wrong. Tadaham te vidashami Mahaparushiko Bhavan Yasya Sadhatam Asu Yasya Sadhatam Asu Shan Mukunde Mati Sati Tadaham te vidashami Mahaparushiko Bhavan Yasya Sadhatam Asu Syan Mukunde Mati Sati. So, gentlemen.
Tad aham te vidyasyami Mahapurushiko Bhavan Yasya Shraddhahatam Asu Syan Mukunde Mati Sati.
Taraham te vidashyami Mahapurushiko Bhavan Yasya Shraddhahatam Asu Shan Mukunde Mati Sati.
Tadaham te vidashami Mahaparushiko Bhavan Yasya Yasha Sadahatam Asu Shanmukunde Mati Shati
Taraham Devi Hashyami
Taraham Devi Dashyami
Mahaparushiko Bhavan
Mahaparushiko Bhavan
Yasha Shadadaratam Ashu
Yasha Asu
Shanmukunde Mati Sati
Shanmukunde Mati Shati. Okay. No Maharani. That's okay. That's a good. Okay. So, okay. I'll do the word for word. Tat, that. Aham, I. Te, unto you. Abhidashami, shall recite. Mahaparushika, the most sincere devotee of Lord Krishna. Bhavan, your good self. Yasha, of which. Sadhatam, yeah, it's actually Shraddhahatam. I keep saying it wrong. Of one who gives full respect and attention. Asu, very soon. Syat, it so becomes. Mukunde, unto the Lord, who awards salvation. Mati, faith. Sati, unflinching. So, what is the difference between this word and the sati, right? How is it?
Same word.
Huh?
Same word.
Same word. There's no emphasis on an A or something different, or
No, exactly same. In Sanskrit also exact same word. Exact same word in Sanskrit also.
unflinching and self-immolation. Okay. So, I'll read the translation and we'll do word for word. That very Srimad Bhagavatam I shall recite before you, because you are the most sincere devotee of Lord Krishna, one who gives full attention and respect to hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, achieves unflinching faith in the Supreme Lord, the giver of salvation. Now you please repeat. That very Srimad Bhagavatam I shall recite before you. Because you are the most sincere devotee of Lord Krishna. One who gives full attention and respect to hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. Achieves unflinching faith in the Supreme Lord. The giver of salvation. So here's the Srila Prabhupada's divine purports. Actually, I heard Maharaj Prabhupada refer to his purports as his emotional ecstasies.
Can you draw that closer to you?
Oh yeah, sorry. These things, technicalities. Srimad Bhagavatam is recognized Vedic wisdom, and the system of receiving Vedic knowledge is called Avaroha Panta, or the process of receiving transcendental knowledge through bona fide disciplic succession. For advancement of material knowledge, there is a need for personal ability and researching aptitude. But in the case of spiritual knowledge, all progress depends more or less on the mercy of the spiritual master. It's like Yasha Prasada Bhagavat Prasado Yasha Prasada Nagati Kato. By the mercy of the spiritual master, one becomes enlivened. And it's reciprocal. If you act on that mercy, then the spiritual master becomes more enlivened, enthusiastic, and he gives you more mercy. And that's the way it increases. So by the mercy of the spiritual master, we are receiving this process. The spiritual master must be satisfied with the disciple. Only then is knowledge automatically manifest before the student of spiritual science. The process should not, however, be misunderstood to be something like magical feats whereby the spiritual master acts like a magician and injects spiritual knowledge into the disciple as if surcharging him with an electric current. Actually, I think just has a couple of quick stories. One is that there was this, he was an American, quote-unquote, hippie guru, and he was very big in San Francisco area, and then they had a caravan, and they ended up in Tennessee and created a farm community. At one point, I was living in this community of not devotees, of hippies or whatever, and but I was also aware of Krishna consciousness. I read the Bhagavad Gita. So with this girl that I had a relationship with, she wanted me to read his book and then go to the last class that he was going to give before he goes on his caravan. And everybody's waiting. And all he does is come out and say, "You're all backseat drivers, get in the front seat and drive your own vehicle." And the guy's going, "Wow, that's so deep." And I'm thinking, this is crazy. So what is so deep about this? I mean, I just read Prabhu's the Blue Macmillan Bhagavad Gita, and I've been chanting on Harinam. This is not deep. And so then at one point, someone starts to challenge and wants to come up on the stage, and he had people around him that were protecting his field of energy. And so this person kept challenging him, "If you're God, what am I thinking?" Things like that. And so the person gets up on the stage and starts to confront him like that, and he starts running away. And then eventually they're chasing him, and then this guy, his name was Stephen Gaskin, and he said, Stop him, he's trying to steal my energy." He's God, but he has this energy, and he's God, but somebody can steal it from him. But he had that energy to give you a zap, And then there's the story, though. Recently we were studying about Jagannath Das Babaji, and someone went in and asked him, "Can you perform some miracle for me?" And Jagannath Das Babaji, he's a Babaji, and he's I don't perform magic. I don't perform miracles. No, I can't do that. And just at that moment, he picked up his walking stick and started banging the ground like this. Bang, bang, bang. So the person was a sincere person. He just, asked the wrong question to the right person. And so he was afraid that he had offended Jagannath Das Babaji. He had that much respect, so he starts to leave. And then Jagannath Das Babaji says, No, it's not. I'm not angry with you. Come, no. There was a goat near. I forget. It was near. He was there in Mayapur, in Navadvip, and he referred to some deity in Vrindavan.
I thought it was Samadhi place, no?
A Samadhi place, right? And it was a Samadhi, a Rupa or Sanatana Goswami or something. And there was a Tulsi plant in front of it, and a goat was trying to eat it. And therefore I was banging on the ground to scare away the goat. And then the man's thinking, he's scaring a goat away in Vrindavan. First of all, how does he know that? So the man, immediately he had some friends that were in that area, and he telegraphs them. And sure enough, his friends confirmed that right around that very same time, there was a goat trying to eat the Tulsi plant by the Samadhi, and then it was frightened and ran away. So he did have, and his servant, Jagannath Das Babaji, asked Jagannath Das Babaji's servant asked him, why did you do that? And he said, well, he wanted to see some magic trick, so I thought I'd give him. And anyway, the goat was about to eat the tulsi plant, so I thought I'd stop it. So, in that way, but it's not a question. When Prabhupada asked this question, what miracles can you perform? And he said, you see these boys and girls? Before I came, they were all long-haired hippies with no direction home, as the poet said. And now taking intoxication, engaging in illicit activities, and now they're all bright-faced, smiling, happy souls. That's my miracle. And the United States government was spending so much money to try to, change our direction so that we didn't, use this intoxication. But nothing they could do. There was no higher taste. The higher taste was Srila Prabhupada's and the Hare Krishna mantra. That was the higher taste. You can't give up one thing. You can't give up an activity that you're getting something from unless you introduce to a higher pleasure. And that's what Prabhupada did. That was his miracle. The bona fide spiritual master reasonably explains everything to the disciple on the authorities of Vedic wisdom. The disciple can receive such teachings not exactly intellectually, but by submissive inquiries and service attitude. The idea is that both the spiritual master and the disciple must be bona fide. That's a really important sentence. The idea is that both the spiritual master and the disciple must be bona fide. And actually, the definition of a bona fide guru is a bona fide disciple. Someone who is actually following the instructions of his spiritual master, of being a bona fide disciple, representing the spiritual master. He is qualified spiritual master. And Prabhupada always said that. Whenever anybody said, oh Prabhupada, you've done this, you've done that, if I've done anything, I'm simply, is that I'm following the order of my spiritual master, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada. It's all by his mercy. Or my spiritual master has sent you all to help me. He never took credit.
And it's based on sincere inquiry, is what you're
Sincere inquiry, yes. And this is a very subtle point here. Where someone's, sometimes, devotees get caught up in when they're reading, and they get caught up in, on an intellectual level, and what Prabhupada even one letter said, you Americans have this disease, you are over-intelligent, which means you overthink the situation. You overanalyze it. And here's Prabhupada saying, it's not an intellectual gymnastic feat of trying to figure out Krishna and how all this is working. It's by submissive inquiries and a service attitude. You have to have service. You listen submissively. You can ask intelligent questions, and you must ask intelligent questions. You must understand it with your intelligence. That's definitely there. Otherwise, it's just blind faith. But you also must be doing service to the spiritual master. You're welcome. She paid me to say that. No, I'm kidding. I'm so kidding.
So all of this is based on humility.
Yes. And it's based on Dharma. What the foundation of everything in human civilization is the Dharma, just like actually the foundation of all creation is the Dharma of each organism is, they're performing their Dharma. And what is that Dharma? That Dharma for the human being is that we are servants. Now either we serve mammon or material energy, or we serve the Supreme Lord. We have to have a service attitude. And the more that service is imbued with pure devotion, unmotivated, ahaituki apratiyata, unmotivated devotional service, uninterrupted devotional service, the more we hear with devotion, the more we speak with devotion or chant with devotion, the more we do service with devotion, the better. I mean, our devotional service is affected by the modes of material nature until we reach the final ultimate stage. You know, sometimes you get caught up in how expert a madanga player I am, or after a year playing the cartel, I got a chance to play cartels when Prabhupada in the kirtan, and I got close to try to show him how expert I was. and he looked over out of the corner of his eye, and then he did a flurry with his guitar, his cartels, and I realized how fool I was. It has to have a devotional feeling, and not just like, being influenced by the mode of passion or the mode of ignorance. Oh, listen to me, hear me. But and in this way, Krishna reciprocates with you and gives you more abilities, and gives you more intelligence, or gives you more realizations. It comes from within, externally and internally. I hope I'm not destroying the flow, but because this was unprepared, I'm just as I go along. The idea is that both the spiritual master and the disciple must be bona fide. In this case, the spiritual master, Sukadeva Goswami, is ready to recite exactly what he has learned from his great father, Srila Vyasdev, and the disciple, Maharaj Pariksit, is a great devotee of Lord Krishna. And I was actually struck by the fact that Sukadeva Goswami is saying that I'm going to recite this Bhagavatam because you are the most sincere devotee of Lord Krishna. He's the one who's reciting it. He's not considering himself superior. He's considering himself the servant. And he sees that Maharaj Pariksit is a very sincere disciple, or a servant of Krishna. That's a very, yes, now you have reached the right conclusion by coming to me, and now I shall instruct you because I have realized, it's completely different. I need to do a play or something. I'm getting too dramatic. In this case, the spiritual master Sukadeva Goswami is ready to cite exactly what he has learned from his great father Srila Vyasdev and the disciple. Maharaj Pariksit is a great devotee of Lord Krishna. A devotee of Lord Krishna is he who believes sincerely that by becoming a devotee of the Lord, one becomes fully equipped with everything spiritual. This teaching is imparted by the Lord himself in the pages of the Bhagavad Gita, in which it is clearly described that the Lord, Sri Krishna, is everything, and that to surrender unto him solely and wholly makes one the most perfectly pious person. So, it said solely and wholly. It's not H-O-L-Y, but it's W-H-O-L-L-Y. Completely, in other words. Solely and completely, but solely and wholly. Sounds really nice. This unflinching faith in Lord Krishna prepares one to become a student of Srimad Bhagavatam. And one who hears Srimad Bhagavatam from a devotee like Sukadeva Goswami is sure to attain salvation at the end, as Maharaj Pariksit did. The professional reciter of Srimad Bhagavatam and the pseudo-devotees whose faith is based on one week's hearing, in other words, 7 days, not weak versus strong, is based on 1 week's hearing, are different from Sukadeva Goswami and Maharaj Pariksit. There are people in India that they do Bhagavad Sapta, and they'll chant the Bhagavatam, sections of the Bhagavatam, maybe not the whole thing. And generally they like to go to the rasa dance especially, and they get paid. This is how they earn a living. And Prabhupada gave one devotee, Jasamati Nandana, in Gujarat, permission to do something like that, because that's what, in Gujarat, that's where he is. that's what they expect. And so he let him do something like that, but not in a professional mood, in a devotional mood. And devotees do come together, especially during Kartik. I saw these devotees, these godbrothers of mine in Govardhan. They have this one place, and they were just every day. I was watching it by Seshika and Keshava Bharati, and then there are other devotees just gathered around, and they're just reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's really, really ecstatic. It's a place, I forget the name of the place, but Keshava Bharati manages it. And it apparently the story goes, I just found out the other day, in 1993, Tamal Krishna Maharaj and Giriraj Maharaj were going on a parikrama around Govardhan. And Tamal Krishna Maharaj has been such a frontline warrior in the Sankirtan movement that he didn't have much time for, when devotees weren't going on pilgrimages and stuff, he was doing so much service for Prabhupada and managing so much. So now he was taking some time out to go to these holy places, and he found this place that was owned by some king. I don't know where it was exactly, and a small kingdom. And it was a very nice building, very, very well constructed. And he thought this would be a perfect place for devotees to come on retreat and study the Shastra. And they have a complete library there. So every year, these devotees, they gather together there. And I don't know what the qualification is to get in, but you can watch it online. And it's really ecstatic. This year they were reading from Ajamil. They have some brief discussions, some question and answer period, but mainly it's just reading the Bhagavatam, listening to the Bhagavatam out loud together.
So it's in YouTube, Prabhu?
Yeah. Well, I think I was getting it by I would type in by Sheshika's, and then you can get his Facebook page.
Okay.
Like that. Even though I'm not a member of Facebook, I get it through that. But it might be on YouTube. I'm not sure. Okay. But that's how I was picking it up in the mornings. And it was really ecstatic. And Keshava Bharati had related that he had just had, a few years ago, heart surgery. And he found that he had such an attachment to reading Prabhupada's books out loud that during that period, he felt back to that. Like, whatever you do, like there's a Bengali saying, I don't know what it is in Bengali, maybe you know, but whatever you do in your life for self-realization is tested at the time of death. And so whatever you don't do, like if you're really an avid sports fan, you want to see the results of yesterday's game, that's the thing you're going to want to do. When I was going through I went through like 3 surgeries in the last 8 years or so, and after the heart surgery, I couldn't, nothing mundane at all. I didn't have the energy or the time for anything mundane. The only thing I wanted to do was hear Prabhupada lectures. But I had trouble, I didn't have the strength necessary to read on my own at that point. So, and I don't know what it's like for people that haven't had, maybe a Christian would want to hear the Bible or something. But it's really important to develop attachment to these. It's one of the 9 processes of devotional service now while you're young. Because sometimes you think, well, I got all the books, and then when I get older, I'll read them. Well, sometimes, I'll tell you, when you get older, your mental capacity, everything diminishes, your vital energy diminishes. And so you don't have maybe the ability to focus or the strength to read or something like that. Don't rely on, I can do it later. Don't procrastinate. You should, whatever you practice now, that will help you later. And you never know when it's going to be a pop quiz. You know, you may not have a prior warning, like, you know, slow dwindling with some disease. It may be all of a sudden stroke, car accident, you know. And I had those too. I had two of them. So in those things, you know, fortunately for me, I was playing Prabhupada in the car, and I could hear Prabhupada's voice. But, you know, but my mind wasn't necessarily going to that. I was, you know, I don't know where I was, but I could hear Prabhupada. So it's important to practice now. And this is all, again, we're talking about death here. And I just want to mention, since we're, you know, because this is a very long purport, and I think this is a relevant point at this point, that I just recently heard one devotee was giving a class, and he said that Prabhupada said once in Australia, I don't know, maybe it was around 1974, that there's 18,000 verses in the Srimad Bhagavatam. And these verses are so important that each verse could be studied for a month. Now, I'm sure there's some verses that, like, say, they're describing how many chariots there were or something, but then there's other verses that are, like the Atmaram, you know, some really important verses that would more than a month. But on an average, Prabhupada said, each verse should be studied for 1 month. Now, if you calculate 1 month for 18,000 verses, and I have, that would be, is anyone good at math? 1,500 years. Excuse me, 1,500 years. That's how long it would take to fully study the Srimad Bhagavatam. Now, I know that back in 1999, I decided, you know, because in the beginning of the Bhagavatam, Prabhupada says you should study this one verse at a time and not skip around. And sometimes when you say you join and the devotees are studying the third canto and you go through from that point. So, and it's not like you just read it like an ordinary novel. So, but Prabhupada says in the beginning, in this, I think it's in the preface, he says the Bhagavatam should be studied in a systematic way, one verse at a time, not haphazardly skipping here and there. Now, there's no reason why you can't go, if you have some place, like I used to like to read the Maharaj Prithu story, and so I would read that as a separate thing, but one verse at a time. And he said, by the time you finish the 9th canto and get to the 10th canto, you will be God realized. So I decided I would do that in 1999. And I think it was somewhere in this past decade, I don't remember the exact year, but I finally finished 9 cantos. And I religiously did it every day except for a few times when I'm, like, say, in a surgery or something like that. You know, sort of circumstances, days that I lost days. So, but that's how long it took me. I don't remember exactly the number of years, but it was definitely over a dozen years that it took me to read each verse straight through. And then when I finished the 9th canto, and I thought, am I God realized? Do I have love of God? Well, I could do better. So I decided to start over again. So, but anyway, that's a nice kind of way, if you're going to study, that's a good, have a focused study that I'm going to separately, I'm going to read one verse, one purport a day, starting from the beginning, and go straight through. So, and then study it for a month, and in 1,500 years, you know, you'll have, no. But if you go all the way through, you will be God realized. Now, does anyone have anything you'd like to say? Okay, yes?
Did someone else?
I don't think so.
The devotees are always trying to ambush Paul McCartney and talk to him. And so he wrote a song called I'll Get Around to It One of These Days.
Oh, really?
And he's 77.
Yeah. But he has done, first of all,
Oh, yeah.
but you know, we all talk about how George Harrison did that Govindam prayers and the album. But if you talk to any of the devotees that were there, they say that Paul was in the booth, the engineer booth, and he was doing a lot of the producing and engineering. And he may have even played the bass on some of the songs. He was very involved.
Yes, and also he hires the devotees
to cook. Yeah,
to cook.
I'll tell you this: when he was touring with Wings back in the '80s, we went outside the concert hall where he was going to be performing that night, and we were passing out this. We used to make peanut butter burfi. This one devotee really had a special recipe for it. It was really quite extraordinary. And so we distribute all the burfi, and everybody goes inside, and then we go home. The next morning, I got a call from my godbrother, who was the president of Gainesville at the time, Amarendra, who went on to be the lawyer for ISKCON. And he said, "Hey, were you guys at the Paul McCartney concert last night?" So we were outside. I said, "Were you guys on some prasadam?" He said, "Yeah, we had peanut butter burfi." He said, "You know what? My friend from college is the promoter of this section of the tour. And he was with Paul and his wife Linda and the rest. And they went back out looking for you guys. They said that was the best thing that had happened so far on their entire tour, was that peanut butter burfi."
Paul says his favorite is halava.
Halava, yeah. Well, all the Beas got addicted to prasadam. There's so many stories like that. They all got... George kept telling Dhananjaya that if you guys keep coming and bringing me these kinds of beautiful banquets every day, I won't get anything done. And he said, "Okay, I won't come." He said, No, keep coming. And that's how they first got them. They were making them apple pies and things with apples, like apple this, apple that, because they had just formed the Apple Corporation.
And when they stopped, the Beatles asked, "Where are the people with the apples?"
Where are the people with the apples? Yeah. And
Guru Das, when he was here, he said that he was in the booth while they were producing the album, part of the time while I was doing. And he talked to Linda, and Linda said, "Paul is my God." And that really upset me at the time, and there was a book distributor here, I can't remember his name, and he said, "No, that's okay. But Paul has to bring her back to God."
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, they were, they did, none of them had except for, George was the one who had the right attitude. They all were, and then you can imagine someone in their position, it would be very difficult. There's so many distractions and so on. But
John wrote the first song with the Hare Krishna mantra.
Yeah, but he did it in a cynical way. Yeah.
He was kind of making fun.
He was, yeah. He even said
But that was the first time I ever heard the
Me too.
1966, November.
Yeah, I thought it was 67 November, because I was in college. And
well, that was when it was recorded, so we don't know how long it took to get
and the first, so when I heard it, I was in college, and it was that fall semester of 67, and I was sitting in the cafeteria, and it was 4 of us together, and 2 people they asked this one guy who knew like Woody Guthrie and Arnold Guthrie, and they said, "What is that Hare Krishna thing?" And he goes, "You guys don't know that?" And then he looked and he said, "I bet Gerard knows it," meaning me. And I'm going, "Yeah, sure, I know, yeah." I had no idea. But I was wondering, why did he think I knew that? So I made it a point to find out, well, what is Hare Krishna? But, that was a seminal moment. Anyway, I'll try to get it back to what it was supposed to be doing. Get back to it. The teaching is imparted by the Lord Himself in the pages of the Bhagavad Gita, in which it is clearly described that Lord Sri Krishna is everything, and that to surrender unto Him solely and wholly makes one the most perfectly pious man. This unflinching faith in Lord Krishna prepares one to become a student of Srimad Bhagavatam. And one who hears Srimad Bhagavatam from a devotee like Sukadeva Goswami is sure to attain salvation at the end, as Maharaj Pariksit did. The professional reciter of Srimad Bhagavatam and the pseudo-devotees whose faith is based on 1 week's hearing are different from Sukadeva Goswami and Maharaj Pariksit. Srila Vyasadeva explained Srimad Bhagavatam unto Sukadeva Goswami from the very beginning of the Jamajasha verse, and so Sukadeva Goswami also explained it to the king. Lord Krishna is described as the Mahapurusha in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, and in his devotional feature as Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Lord Krishna himself in his devotional attitude, descended on earth to bestow special favors unto the fallen souls of this age of Kali. I'm almost out of time, so maybe, because there's more to it, maybe...
8:19.
Huh?
8:19.
Yeah. So, because anyway, I'll just keep reading that, because I just was going to make a comment here about this way. There are 2 verses particularly suitable to offer as prayers to this Mahapurusha feature of Lord Krishna. Deyam sada paribhavagan apishtadoham titas padam seva virinchi nutam saranyam brityatiham parata pala bhavat vipapotam vande mahapurushate charanarvindam Chakva sudastyaja surekshitaraja lakshmin dharmishtad arya vachasaya aga aranyam mayamrikam taye chitam anvadavad vande mahapurusha te charanadavindam. That's from the Bhagavatam 11th Canto, Chapter 5, 33 and 34. And it doesn't give the translation. In other words, Purusha means the enjoyer, and Mahapurusha means the supreme enjoyer, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. One who deserves to approach the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna, is called the Mahaparushika. Anyone who hears Srimad Bhagavatam attentively from its bona fide reciter is sure to become a sincere devotee of the Lord, who is able to award liberation. There is none so attentive as Maharaj Pariksit in the matter of hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, and there was none so qualified as Sukadeva Goswami to recite the text of Srimad Bhagavatam. Therefore, anyone who follows in the footsteps of either the ideal reciter or the ideal hearer, Sukadeva Goswami and Maharaj Pariksit respectively, will undoubtedly attain salvation like them. Maharaj Pariksit attained salvation by hearing only, and Sukadeva Goswami attained salvation only by reciting. Recitation and hearing are 2 processes out of 9 devotional activities, and by strenuously following the principles, either in all or by parts, one can attain the absolute plane. So, the complete text of Srimad Bhagavatam, beginning from Janmadasha verse up to the last one in the 12th canto, was spoken by Sukadeva Goswami for the attainment of salvation by Maharaj Pariksit. In the Padma Purana, it is mentioned that Gautama Muni advised Maharaj Ambarish to hear regularly Srimad Bhagavatam as it was recited by Sukadeva Goswami. And herein it is confirmed that Maharaj Ambarish heard Srimad Bhagavatam from the very beginning to the end, as it was spoken by Sukadeva Goswami. One who is actually interested in the Bhagavatam, therefore, must not play with it by reading or hearing a portion from here and a portion from there. One must follow in the footsteps of the great kings like Maharaj Ambarish and Maharaj Pariksit and hear it from a bona fide representative of Sukadeva Goswami. But I hadn't read the whole purport, so here again, Prabhupada confirms that don't skip around. You should hear it boom, 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 like that. So, and then there's a lot I could talk about, but it's almost 8:20. So, is there any questions? 8:25 actually. Any questions or comments? Yes.
Well, I just have a technical question about the story you told about Jagannath Das Babaji.
Yes.
And you're explaining how the person that was there, he somehow contacted his friends in Vrindavan.
Yeah, he sent a telegram or something like that.
A telegram?
Something like that, yeah. So he contacted him, yeah.
Oh, because I was thinking I heard that word telegraph or telegram.
It was in the late 1800s or probably in the early 19th. Yeah. Anyway, he lived towards the end of the 19th century. So there was telegram or teletype, There was, what do you call it?
Morse code.
Morse code, yeah.
Morse code.
So that's like telegram. I mean, that's how they probably communicated.
I didn't know. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, we think like before the 20 years I've been alive, 30 years I've been alive, what did they do? They didn't have Wi-Fi, they didn't have internet, they didn't have a cell phone. I mean, they used to be payphones, And so, they were able to, and I'm trying to remember the source I read it from, or heard it from, but it was a reliable source. And so you could contact the other side of India in a matter of, an hour or two and confirm things. Anything else? Yes? Marwan?
We were reading last night from 427, correct me Daniel if I'm going off here, like what you just said, doing devotional service is the highest.
Mm-hmm.
Krishna goes in that verse of all the yogas, goes into details of the prana yoga, many yogas, and then comes down and you're like, oh, he's going to say something else, but at the end it was like devotional service, chanting and
hearing.
And there is a name that we saw there. Let me see whether I can remember. Can you remember? It says Harir Namanu Kirtana.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah. Harinam Anukirtanam.
Harinam Anukirtanam.
Harir Namanu Kirtana. That's what it says.
And that
Instead
is...
of hearing and chanting, it's like two different words.
Yes.
They combine that together and
Right.
it says Harir
Well,
Namanu Kirtana.
exactly. When you're chanting japa, that you're doing hearing and chanting. And hopefully remembering.
And Dr. John was giving us a class yesterday. Oh my God. his
I'm not surprised.
memorization was
I'm not
amazing.
surprised. I am not surprised at all. But, I was surprised back about, 6 or 8 months ago when he started doing the Sanskrit verses. Maybe it was a year ago, I don't remember. Time flies. Because before that I hadn't heard you, but he's expert at chanting Sanskrit. And his questions usually in a class, he asked me a question concerning, I think it was a story from Socrates or Plato about the cave dwellers. Do you remember that?
Yeah, the allegory of the cave.
Yeah, so, he's a very informed individual. And he listens very carefully. And so sound vibrations, this is the main thing, it's the sound vibration. Recently, I heard someone speaking. There was a devotee. I don't remember which one it was, but just recently he was referring that. Maybe it was she referring. I can't remember who was giving the class, but they actually have therapies using sound vibration for people who have psychological problems. And they didn't go into detail of what that was, but they understand that sound vibration has an effect on the psychological state of mind. Like people that experiencing post-traumatic stress syndrome, music is very therapeutic. My father had been a prisoner of war, and they didn't know about post-traumatic stress, but he somehow or other intuitively, which means super soul, took to teaching himself to play guitar and became a very expert musician. And that therapy brought him out of this, cloud that he was in from what he had experienced in the prison camp. which is pretty traumatic. So, the sound vibration, the more and more they're understanding the effects of like they even do surgeries now. I don't know if it's ultrasound or, but they can actually, prostate cancer and a few others, but it's like a combined laser and sound, and they can actually perform a surgery through sound vibration. So we're doing surgery on the soul, and the sound vibration is Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
I read that chanting utilizes both the left and right brain.
I had an experience with Srila Prabhupada. It was right after I received second initiation from him. He gave me second initiation as he was getting ready to go to the airport. We were in Brooklyn, so he was getting ready to go to the airport and gave me second initiation. And I went out to the airport, and there was a delay in his flight, so we're sitting in the waiting area, and the whole way down the concourse, this was like 73. The whole way down the concourse, there was a big, huge kirtan going on. At least 100 devotees, and maybe 80, but something like that. And the airport management kept trying to get us to stop. So we would stop, and then we'd start again, stop, start. And they would get a little annoyed. And then finally we get to the waiting room, and one devotee asked Prabhupada, "Can I just do a small little kirtan?" I said, "Okay, right, go ahead." So he sang, I believe it was Jai Radha Madhava. But he did it in a way, and he sounded exactly like the way Prabhupada would sing it. And so it was, I can't imitate it. He wasn't imitating it. He was a very expert kirtaniya and mridanga player. And so he was, he chanted the whole thing, and every now and then Prabhupada was going like this, and then he'd kind of look over at him, and going like that. And then when the kirtan ended, Prabhupada, I was sitting right in front of Prabhupada at his feet. And I just got second initiation, so I'm focused in on everything he's doing. Every movement, everything he said. And he looked over him and he said, "You listen very nicely." And I was like, what? He just chanted. What did that have to do with listening? And then I got it. That through listening, you can speak or chant properly. Prabhupada said that my spiritual master said my only qualification for preaching was that I could hear and I heard from my spiritual master with attention, full attention. Therefore, I can speak, I can chant. So Prabhupada confirmed that by listening, it will affect the soul, and you will chant properly. You will have realizations. When you chant your japa in the morning, I can prepare for a class and study and listen to lectures and everything, but if I don't chant good rounds, I can't give a class. Most of the time you can tell I haven't chanted good rounds. So,
that's your humility.
But when I get realizations from the japa. Whatever I put into my, consciousness through the reading and other classes, when I chant, it manifests. Super soul reciprocates. So it's all about sound vibration. And, on the mundane level, they're seeing the effects of sound vibration, how important it is. And weapons, all the major weapons, when they say that, not Vasishtha, it was Vishwamrita, instructed Ram and Lakshman in all these how to use these different weapons. It meant he initiated them to the mantras of those weapons. And those mantras produce the weapons. So, but yeah, it's all about mantras and sound vibration. In the beginning there was the Word, and the Word was God. It was Krishna. So it's sound vibration that created. Sound, the first thing is ether, and ether is sound, then air, then it's fire, water, earth, like that. So, anything else? Jai, thank you for being good listeners.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Srimad Bhagavatam Jai.
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada Jai.
Sure.